Thanks, Surya. Thanks for the introduction, and thanks for saying very nice things. And the fact that you said, so far, right? You said so far. Maybe we close the event now, so that we go on the high note. Okay. But hopefully, we continue to be able to deliver value to everybody throughout the day, and we look forward to probably hosting many more such events. Okay? First of all, congratulations to your leadership and to the leadership of the Hyderabad Data Sciences Group for becoming the 10th largest center in the globe. Congratulations. Somebody told me that globally they did some survey. There are about 60,000 data scientists, so to speak, in the US, okay? 15,000 in China, and about 12,000 in India. Okay. So we still have ways to go, and when we see it, I think there's a lot more chairs, and that's the reason we have more chairs, empty ones, so that people can fill it up and we reach the number. Okay. So look forward to this particular group and everybody leading the way, and hopefully India can overtakes both US and China and the number of data scientists across the globe. Okay. So I think that's definitely one target for the Hyderabad Data Sciences Group. So actually, I got conned into this. Again by Sunila. Okay. Most of you know Sunila, right? Okay. So I think a couple of days back she said we're going to host this thing, and then I said great. Okay. Then she said why don't you just come and be present. And I thought it's like this chief guest job, right? You come there and you come and look good, right? Nobody's mind. Looking good? No? So obviously I didn't qualify for that. Okay. So if looking good was the criteria, if you wanted chief guest, you probably would have got something like Amla Kineni or something like that. Okay? But in the absence of this, you'll have to do with me. Okay? And then suddenly, probably yesterday, she came and said, you need to talk to this group. And again, that's another surprise. Okay? I really didn't know what to talk. Okay? And so I was asking, what do you want me to talk about? And she said, we should talk about big data and trends of big data and all that kind of stuff. I said, Sunil, this is like, setting me up, slowly, okay? And then I asked her who's attending this conference. Then she listed out the kind of speakers and the audience, and then it really made me a little uneasy. Okay? And all of us follow cricket, right? Yeah? Yes. Show of hands, who doesn't know cricket? Oh, good. So at least we have one person. So pretty much everybody follows cricket, right? So people have heard of a guy called Rahul Dravid? Yes? People have heard of a guy called Sehwag? Yes? So currently my position is like Sehwag. So I'm like Sehwag, and my job is to teach technique to Rahul Dravid and so. I think that's pretty much impossible kind of a task. So that's the kind of situation I think Sunila has put me in. So when I'm Sehwag, you guys probably know more about technique than I've never do in a lifetime. But Sehwag being Sehwag, what does he do? He just goes for it, okay? And then hopefully if you stick, you miss whatever happens. So hopefully I'll say a few things and hopefully some of it sticks and most of it might not, okay? Considering current form which Sehwag has. So what I really want to convey, I'm really not going to talk about the science part or the data part. Okay? So I'm going to talk more from a CEO's perspective, okay? Or a business perspective. So end of the day, big data, small data, long data, short data, whatever data, what does the CEO want? Okay, what's the question, right? Where's the money? Absolutely, right? So as far as CEO is concerned, he would like to see the outcome of whatever you guys do. Yes. And that's pretty much what, at the end of the day, the success lies, and especially in business, is about the result. Okay, you don't get paid for the effort, but you get paid for the result. You probably get applauded for the effort, but you get paid for the result. So I'll talk a little bit about that from my perspective. Okay? And very interestingly, a few years back, I was speaking to my CEO, Rich Daly, who's who's a very unique kind of individual. He's probably one of those rare breeds who was an entrepreneur and very successfully migrated to become part of a large corporate and very successfully for 15-20 years. Not too many people do that shift, going from a small-time entrepreneur to a very, very large corporate. So he's done that. And we were talking about, this magic question, what do clients want? I mean, what do they want? Anybody wants to take a guess? What do clients want?
Services for free.
Absolutely free, I think. Good. There. So, solutions, yes.
End result.
End result, absolutely. So actually he, pretty much what everybody said is true, but what he said very well was, what clients want is just three things. Free, perfect, no. Free, perfect, no. That's pretty much what they want, okay? And we as human beings also at any time, we also want things like, anything that we want free, ideally, okay? Perfect, and now. Okay? So the world has not really changed in terms of what clients want. Okay? So if you really think of the world, where the world is moving, okay, probably in the last maybe 15-20 years, and if you think of something like Google as an example, today we are looking at something very dramatic and very different, and it's again trying to free perfect now. So the idea is the world is moving away from searching for something, okay, to the solution, the answer coming to you. Okay. Actually, that's a fundamental shift. Okay. You don't want to search for something. Ideally, you would like it to come to you, even before you thought of the search, right? That's what, in many ways, the world is kind of moving towards. And in many ways, if you read some of the early, articles about Google, that was essentially what their messaging was. Okay. So people shouldn't be looking for something, that they should find that person. I mean, it sounds like science fiction a little bit, but that's where we are actually moving. And in many ways, I would think that big data is actually accelerating that particular trend. If you really think of the trend, I think big data is essentially doing that. Instead of you searching for things, it's trying to do predictions, etc., so that the thing comes to you. Make sense?
Yes.
So I think that's pretty much the high level trend that we are seeing in the society. But I think from a social perspective, and I think very important for all of us out here, I think the bigger social cause that that this team here and pretty much data scientists around the world can really think of. And the term I think is called the tyranny of distance. Okay, tyranny of distance. So what do you mean by the tyranny of distance? Let me give an analogy. Today, for example, we read about Mr. Kejriwal all over the press, right? Every day there is not a single item which is not about him. Why is that? Maybe there is a bigger event which happens, let's say, in Vijayawada or in Hyderabad. For example, the same day when the assembly was talking about the bifurcation of state, that took lesser precedence than what antics of Mr. Kejriwal in Delhi. So why is that? If you really think of it, the fact that all news centers around Delhi, okay, and the further you are away from Delhi, okay, the importance of the news kind of decreases. Make sense? That's what I call as the tyranny of distance, and somebody I don't call it, somebody called it, and I kind of lifted the phrase. Okay? But if you really think of it, in the good old days, let's say you wanted to talk of consumer behavior. Essentially what you would do is you would probably go to one metro town or one large city and do a little study and essentially apply the same pattern all over the place. Okay? You would assume that just because people behave in a certain way in Maharashtra or in Bombay, they will do the same across India, okay, which is not necessarily true. Make sense? So essentially, if you look at it again, the fact that today we have the network effect, okay, the fact that we were able to collect data at various points in the chain will actually be able to eliminate the tyranny of distance. Okay? And the fact that you are actually creating equality through data is something that you guys all need to be very extremely proud of. Okay? And you need to start to think of, how do you really equalize, society in that sense. So I believe that this team really has a social cause to it also, apart from the science part, the fun part, the outlook part, the structured part, unstructured part, all the nice things. But I think there's a social message for this team also. But clearly, big data is really making this whole thing happen. Okay, this transformation, so to speak. So obviously, when I talk to probably there are 200 people in this room, if I talk to 200 people, I'll get 200 different definitions of big data. And probably a lot more. Each one has three definitions of big data, and which is good. We can confuse more people, and then we continue to grow this industry. The more people you confuse, it's actually very good, okay? From a sustenance perspective. But if I think of big data, I look at big data in probably three forms. The first part is what I call smart data. Okay? Smart data is essentially some data slice based on which you can take some actions. Okay. So in general, typically what happens is you take the large data sets, you bring it down to probably an Excel or some other tool which you could use and start to make patterns out of it and then make some intelligent kind of responses to the system. That's what I call a smart data. And typically what happens is people like you write great algorithms which allow people to look at big data and make smart data out of it. And the more easier you make the algorithms and the more user-friendly it is and goes away from an engineering domain to an end-user domain, the more successful you should consider yourself. The second data is what I call as identity data. And identity data is a little, identity is about you. In some ways, is there a data set or a data variable which can identify you uniquely in a way. Maybe your credit card number, maybe your social security number, maybe your Aadhaar card number, something like that, okay? So if you combine your identity with, your habits, your behavior, which is, let's say, social media behavior or purchasing, trends, etc., then you're able to make some amount of prediction based on. This is where the machine learning and predictions start up. Okay? So we were just talking this morning, and the analogy for this is, let us say that you're starting a restaurant in Hyderabad, or you already have a restaurant in Hyderabad. The first way you look at smart data is you pretty much gather all the information and slice it and say, okay, probably in the Charminar area biryani sells, okay, probably in Balkaji idli sells, and probably Pulsu sells somewhere. That kind of analysis is doing. That is pretty much the smart data analysis. Okay. The identity data is slightly different, which is, I know, for example, Surya on every Thursday is going to order pizza. Okay? Or a likelihood that he's going to order pizza. I don't really like pizza, sir, but I'm just using that as a. Okay. So that's where you use the identity data, when you start to be able to predict. Okay. And I think the third kind of data is what I call people data, is I think extremely important. Okay. And I think that's going to be the future of big data. People data is essentially, I want to be able to predict what Surya is going to eat, okay, or what he may even like. Okay. Maybe it's not pizza. Okay. Maybe it's pizza combined with idli is what is the next dish. Okay. I have no idea. Okay. But can I produce that dish which can be a game changer? That's about thinking ahead. Okay. That's what I would call as people data. I don't think they're still there, but I think the industry and the intersection of biology and data and science and psychology can get us there. So that's the third kind of data challenge I kind of think of. Obviously, when you look at such a large industry, I think there are challenges. I think the biggest challenge is obviously today there's a lot more data than we ever dreamt of in our lives. Okay? So I would say data, there are a lot more variables. If you really want to look at anything, the amount of data that is skewed, the number of variables have increased exponentially. The problem is, along with the variables, the intelligence or the data per variable, okay, is much lesser. So we really don't know which variable is very, very, very important. Okay? And that's in a way the biggest challenge. So let me give my analogies. My analogy is usually very bad. I don't know whether people have either read about Mahabharata or watched this movie. Krishna is supposed to have two wives, right? One is Rukmini and another is Satyabhama. Yeah, people know that, right? Okay, so I think there's one scene wherein Krishna says, "Can you show your love for me, so to speak?" And I think Satyabhama puts all the gold, right, on the scale. And more and more gold she puts, nothing happens. Rukmini puts what Tulsi leaf, and the scale tilts. Right? So that's what I think of. There are a lot of variables, there's a lot of gold, but actually the Tulsi leaf what really matters. So the question is the data per that variable. So let's say they had this full room full of gold and there's a Tulsi leaf right in the middle of this room. In order for you to search for the Tulsi leaf is actually the challenge. And I think that's the biggest challenge for this team. The problem with that is, statistically, as your data set increases, as you have more and more variables, the number of spurious correlations that you can get is very good, right? There's an exponential increase in the number of spurious correlations that you can get. And if we start to make inferences and predictions based on spurious correlationships, I think it's going to be a challenge. And the industry will face an issue of credibility. And today, unfortunately, more and more, clearly seen, more and more studies and results are more statistical sample oriented. Okay? And that's why you see today that somebody will say, I did a sample, and today you have to eat vitamin B, and tomorrow somebody will do another sample and say you should not eat vitamin B. So why does it happen? Okay. The reason is when you look at large variables, large data sets, and you apply various correlations, you have this particular challenge. Make sense? So I think the challenge for this particular team is how do you move away from just the statistical based approach to data science and have a more holistic kind of approach. I would say that's another challenge for this particular team. Finally, I think if you look at this whole approach to big data, I think one of the things is as we try to predict human behavior changes. We are people who love new experiences. And as we love new experiences, it's very urgently important for us as data scientists to be able to not just look at the past, right? Because today, I'm going to change my behavior. So if I'm going to change my behavior, how am I going to predict it? That's a huge challenge for this particular. So I think how humans look at how humans change is as important for a data scientist as the statistical part. So I think my submission and challenge to this particular team is essentially don't look at data science just as a bunch of computer science algorithms or statistics. Okay. I think we need to include factors of biology and psychology and economics too. Okay. So maybe you should expand this group's thinking, okay, to add wisdom from other disciplines, okay, so that end of the day, if you combine these three, that's when you will be able to produce tangible results. Okay. Otherwise, it will remain a data science, a very intellectual kind of problem, and as a CEO, you will not see the money. Okay. And it's very important that this, it's a very early science, a very nascent kind of science. And it should not become like the pharmaceutical industry, where if you really want to produce a new drug, there's a lot of trials have to be done, and a lot of sampling has to be done, a lot of statistics have to be produced. It takes years for the result. Okay. So it's very important for this team to not lose credibility in prediction. Okay. Otherwise, it will become like the weather forecasters. Very important for that. I urge this particular group to be able to bring in other disciplines into the team, just from a thinking perspective. Okay. I'm sure that you can solve the computer science problem. Okay. You can probably have massive amounts of data stored and access that real time, blah blah blah. That's probably going to be the easy part. But I think being able to make actionable intelligence out of it, I think is where I think this team should lead the way. I wish the Hyderabad data sciences team all the best. Okay, from a Broadridge perspective, I believe my colleague is going to be talking about what we do in big data here later this afternoon. We'd be happy to share our learnings. I believe that the more you share, the more you get back. Look not only from from your individual company's perspective, your perspective, but also, like I said, we have a target. We need to overtake the US and China in terms of number of data scientists we produce. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for your hearing. Appreciate your time. Have a great day.